When I was 6 years old, I met Claire in a sandbox. She had a pink plastic shovel and a bucket shaped like a castle turret, and I had an armful of toy dinosaurs. She asked if they could live in her castle. I said yes. That was the beginning. Through elementary school, middle school, and the awkward swamp of high school, Claire was my constant. We were the type of friends who finished each other's sentences, swapped homework answers without a second thought, and spent countless Friday nights in each other's bedrooms dissecting the mysteries of the world. Why our parents were so weird, what love must feel like, and how we'd both end up as each other's maid of honor someday. It wasn't even a question back then. It was just fact. Fast forward 15 years, and the castle had turned into a ring. It happened on a crisp October evening, the kind where the leaves crunch like candy wrappers under your shoes. James had been acting strangely for weeks, long phone calls in another room, disappearing on Saturdays with a vague running errands excuse. I thought he might be planning a trip for us. Instead, he took me to the rooftop of the restaurant, where we had our first date, and got down on one knee. My mind blanked, not because I didn't expect it, but because the reality of the moment hit like a wave. James, steady and warm, looking at me like I was the only thing in the city that mattered. I said yes before he could even finish the question. We went home that night, and I knew exactly who I was calling first. Claire screamed so loud into the phone, I had to pull it away from my ear. "Oh my God, you're getting married. I'm dying. Dead. You have to let me be your maid of honor." "No, actually, you don't have to. It's already decided. You promised me when we were like 12. I laughed. "I was going to ask you anyway. You think it'd break a 20-year tradition?" "Never," she said, and I could practically hear her grinning through the line. By the time we hung up, she'd already sent me 3 Pinterest boards and a link to matching bridal party robes. The first few weeks were a blur of planning. Claire was unstoppable, calling venues, setting up cake tastings, making group chats for the bridal party. James called her the wedding tornado and said we should pay her. I didn't mind. It felt like the old days to kids building something together, except this time the castle was a wedding. But somewhere in that whirlwind, I started noticing little shifts. It was nothing obvious at first, just extra texts between James and Claire. She'd mentioned something he told her before he told me, or she'd laugh at a joke they shared that I didn't get. At the cake tasting, I caught him watching her when she wasn't looking. It was a look I recognized, the same soft focus he'd had the night he proposed. I told myself it was my imagination. They were both important to me. Of course they'd talk. Of course they'd get along. That's what I wanted my fiancé and my maid of honor to be close, right? One night, about a month after the engagement, I came home from work to find them in the kitchen. Claire was leaning against the counter, laughing, while James chopped vegetables. They didn't notice me at first. When they did, James smiled like nothing was out of place. "Hey babe." Claire stopped by to drop off the flower samples. She nodded, holding up a bundle of silk roses. "These are the ones we talked about yesterday." "Oh, and James was just telling me about that time in college when..." "Which time?" I asked, stepping in. They both paused. Then Claire waved it off. "It's not important." It was probably nothing, but it didn't feel like nothing. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I thought about the sandbox, the promise we'd made, the way we'd always pictured standing beside each other on our wedding days. I told myself she wouldn't do anything to risk that. Not Claire, not my oldest friend. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was starting, something I wasn't being let in on. The next weekend, Claire insisted on a girls' night, just us, no wedding talk. We went to our favorite wine bar, ordered the cheese plate we'd been splitting since we were broke 20-somethings, and caught up about everything except the big day. Somewhere between the second and third glass of Pinot, I asked, "So how's your dating life?" She smirked. "Non-existent. Unless you count living vicariously through yours." It was a weird thing to say, but I laughed it off. We paid the bill, hugged outside, and promised we'd do it again soon. When I got home, James was in the living room, phone in hand. The screen lit up as he turned it off, and for a split second, I saw Claire's name at the top. "She texted to say she got home safe," he said before I could ask. It was a good answer. Too good. That was the first time the pit in my stomach didn't go away by morning. By mid-December, the wedding planning had settled into a rhythm. Saturdays were for venue visits, Sundays for tastings or dress fittings. During the week, Claire would text me updates, photographers she'd found, playlists she was curating for the reception, cute Etsy finds for the bridesmaids. It should have been fun, but somewhere in that steady hum of planning, I started noticing the gaps. It wasn't just the texts between her and James anymore. It was the way she referred to him when I wasn't around. James said the seafood place downtown is perfect for the rehearsal dinner, she told me one afternoon. I hadn't heard James mention it. Or, "Oh, James thinks you'd look amazing in an off-shoulder gown." I hadn't even been dress shopping with him. She talked about him like they were planning the wedding together, like I was the third wheel. One evening, after a long day at work, I walked into the living room to find Claire sitting cross-legged on the couch, laptop open, James beside her. They were watching a YouTube video about modern wedding dances. "Hey," I said, surprised. "When did you get here?" Claire didn't even look guilty. "Just an hour ago. James said you were running late, so we thought we'd start brainstorming the first dance." I dropped my bag by the door. "The first dance? That's kind of my thing." James glanced at me. "We were just throwing ideas around. No big deal." But it felt like a big deal. It felt like they were choreographing something I wasn't a part of. That night, after Claire left, I brought it up. "You know, it's weird when you and Claire make wedding decisions without me." James frowned. "We weren't deciding anything. Just killing time." "Killing time with my maid of honor." His expression hardened. "She's your best friend. Isn't it good that we get along?" "Yes," I said slowly. "But there's getting along, and then there's whatever this is." He shook his head and went to bed without answering. The unease settled into me like damp air. A week later, Claire invited me to a surprise fitting for the bridesmaid dresses. "I found the perfect style," she said. James agrees." James agrees." I laughed it off, but when I walked into the boutique, my smile felt tight. Claire was already there, sipping champagne with the consultant. She held up a dress, long, champagne-colored, with a high slit. "Isn't it perfect? James said it would look stunning next to your gown." I stared at her. "Next to my gown? You've seen my gown?" Her eyes flickered, just for a moment. "Oh, I mean, from the pictures you showed me." Except I hadn't shown her pictures. I hadn't shown anyone pictures. Later that night, I asked James outright, "Did you tell Claire about my dress?" He hesitated. "Just for a beat, but it was enough." "She's the maid of honor," he said finally. "I thought she should know." I felt something cold twist in my chest. "So she could what? Coordinate her dress?" "So she could help," he said. "You're making this a thing when it's not." But it was a thing, and I wasn't imagining it anymore. The week before New Year's, James went out with the guys. Claire texted me at 10 p.m. "Happy almost New Year. Wish you were here." The attached photo was of a crowded bar and James in the background, standing right beside her. I called him. He didn't answer. When he got home at 1 a.m., smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine, he said, "We just bumped into each other." "In the same bar?" I asked. "It's a small city," he said. I told Hannah about it over coffee the next morning. She frowned. "Babe, I love Claire, but this is shady." "I know," I said. "I just don't have proof." "Do you need proof?" Hannah asked. "Or is the way you feel proof enough?" I didn't answer, because deep down I already knew. By mid-January, Claire had somehow become the unofficial point of contact for the wedding. The DJ texted her about the playlist. The florist emailed her about arrangements. When I asked why, they all said, "Claire said it'd be easier this way." Easier for who? The last straw before everything broke came on a Tuesday evening. I was leaving work late and decided to swing by James' apartment. We had been splitting time between our places, but he knew I had a key. When I walked in, the lights were low. Music was playing softly. Claire's coat was draped over the back of the couch. I stood in the doorway, heart pounding. James appeared from the kitchen, startled. "Hey, what are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," I said. Or better yet, I could ask her. Claire stepped out a moment later, holding 2 glasses of wine. She froze when she saw me. "Wow," I said. Maid of honor duties really are all-encompassing. No one spoke for a long moment. The music filled the space between us, cheerful and wrong. Finally, James said, "It's not what it looks like." "Then what is it?" I asked. Neither of them answered. That was the moment I stopped hoping it was all in my head. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the wine glasses. I didn't even ask for an explanation. I looked at Claire holding 2 stemmed lies and said, "I'm going to give you 5 minutes to come up with the story you'll tell me," and walked out. Cold air hit my face in the hallway. My hands were steady until the elevator doors closed, then they started to shake. At home, I put the ring on the counter like it was a hot pan. The apartment felt overlit, every bulb to honest. I turned off a lamp, then another, until only the stove clock glowed 9:41 green. I waited for a text, a call, a knock. Nothing. I paced, sat, stood, ended up at my desk, staring at the framed Saveth date Claire had designed, her script lettering looping my name and James together like it had been practicing since childhood. An impulse pushed me to the hall closet. James kept a backpack there for when he stayed over. Inside, his tablet. He used it for recipes and football. He never put a passcode on it because, as he'd once said with smug innocence, what would I need to hide? The screen woke up with a swipe. Blue bubbles populated like a storm cell. "Claire, she's running late?" "James, she texted 30 minutes ago." "You sure this is smart?" "Claire, what's smart is not making our lives small because we're scared." "James, she's here." I scrolled. Weeks of messages. A private weather system running parallel to my life. "Last night was perfect. You smell like cinnamon and trouble. Well, tell her after the vendor deadlines, it'll be cleaner. Don't say it like that. She's my friend." She was. Photo from New Year's, the same bar but up close. His hand at her waist. Her chin tilted up. I could see the smear of lipstick that hadn't been there when he got home. My heart did that strange, double beat fear and relief do together. Proof hurts and heals in the same breath. I screen captured everything. Emailed it to myself. Emailed it to a new address I made on the spot because suddenly permanence mattered. Receipts folder, then I kept going. Calendar events I hadn't been invited to. Hotel tasting for 2. Florist mock bouquet. A ride-share receipt to a boutique hotel the night Keith sworn he was with the guys. I heard myself laugh. It came out thin and wrong. I called Hannah. Say it fast, she said, picking up on the first ring. I have proof. My voice sounded like someone else's. Texts. Calendar. A New Year's picture with his hand where it shouldn't be. Venmo for a hotel room. A beat. Okay, Hannah said, tone shifting to low and surgical. Then you stop asking questions and you start documenting. Screenshots. Export the thread. Forward vendor emails to your account. And listen to Maid, don't confront them yet. Make them talk to you in writing or in front of people. I already saw them together. Then they'll come looking with a script. Let them bring it. You'll have the book. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. Why does this feel like I'm stealing my own life back? Because they've been borrowing it without permission, she said. After we hung up, I opened our vendor folder shared with Claire. She'd set the whole thing up. A new document sat at the top. Created an hour ago. Run of day Rev 2. My stomach turned. I clicked. Header read new plan. Simple bullets beneath. Tell ye after payments lock. Move balance to J. I have the login. Update processional order. Vendor emails route to me only. Announce change of plans W soft language. Keep it kind, we're not monsters. I stared until the page blurred. Keep it kind, we're not monsters. I copied the doc to my drive and took a dozen screenshots in case she yanked access. My phone buzzed. Unknown number voicemail immediately. Then another, this time from the venue coordinator I like because she'd remembered my grandma's name at our tour. I listened. Hi, this is Kylie from Harborview. I just wanted to confirm we received a cancellation request for the May 17th date under your contract. Because you're the signatory, we do need your okay before we release the date and finalize forfeiture of the deposit. If we don't hear back within 24 hours, we'll proceed based on the written request from your planner. Thank you. I sat very still, the way you do when a wasp lands on your wrist. The room hummed. In my head I saw my signature on page 3 of the contract, looping and confident. Mine, not hers, mine. Another text arrived. Claire, can we talk when you're calm? This is messy and it doesn't have to be. Then James, I'm coming over. We should do this face to face. Perfect, I said to the empty room. I opened a new note and wrote the only rule I could control: no shouting, no apologizing, no rescuing. There were wedding emails to salvage. I logged into the florist and changed the contact back to me. Password reset the DJ account. Downloaded every invoice before it could disappear. Each click felt like unscrewing their fingers from my spine. A small memory knocked. Claire and me at 13, making blood sister promises in her backyard with a safety pin and a band-aid. We will never pick a boy over each other. We'd laughed afterward at how dramatic we were, dizzy on the idea that vows made you safe. The buzzer sounded twice, then fists on the door. I didn't open. Say your piece from there, I called. Don't be ridiculous. Claire's voice came back, brittle around the edges. We're adults. Adults don't cancel other people's weddings by email, I said. Adults knock. A beat. Then James, please babe. The word landed dull as a dropped coin. It didn't belong to me anymore. I opened the door and stepped back far enough that they couldn't touch me without crossing a boundary. They looked like they'd rehearsed outfits. Claire in neutral tones that read reasonable. James in the shirt it once said made his eyes look kinder. Claire spoke first. This isn't what you thinked. I held up the tablet. It's exactly what I thinked, but I'd love to hear your version. Her mouth tightened. We never meant to hurt you. Every line in that plan has a schedule for hurting me. Grubbed a hand over his face. It had just happened, okay? Claire and I found each other while planning my wedding, I said. How cinematic. He reached for the counter, maybe for the ring, maybe for balance. We were trying to figure out the cleanest way. I laughed. You asked the venue to cancel without telling the person whose name is on the contract. That's on Claire, he said too quickly, then caught himself. Claire's gaze flashed. Coward. Monster, I said evenly, since we're saying the quiet parts. She straightened. We're trying to be kind. We thought if we handled logistics, if we took the mess so you didn't have to. You thought if you did the paperwork the betrayal would feel like admin. No one spoke. Outside, a siren slid past, Dopplered and distant. I put my palms on the back of a chair to keep them from shaking. Here's what's going to happen. I am canceling this wedding because I choose to, not because you stole it. I am calling the venue and telling them not to release the date until I direct them. I am moving every vendor under my control. You will both leave. You will not contact me directly again, email only, for anything outstanding, and copy Hannah. You will not publish some soft focus life update about following your hearts. You will not platform your love story on my bones. Claire's eyes flashed with something ugly. You don't get to dictate. I do, I said, steady now. Because those contracts are mine, the lease is mine, and the narrative is mine. Say anything you want, but don't expect me to clean it up. James swallowed. Can we talk about the ring? I looked at the diamond in the shallow bowl by the stove, catching light like it was still innocent. You can talk to my lawyer about the ring. I don't have a lawyer, Claire said. I do, I said. As of 10 minutes ago. It texted Hannah's aunt, sharpest person I knew who did family law and small claims, and her reply had been, happy to send a letter. Also proud of you. Silence again, the kind with edges. Claire broke first. We're not villains. You were my maid of honor, I said. You made yourself the villain. James' voice went soft, the way he used to talk when I cried at movies. I really did love you. I nodded once. I really did too. That's the part you don't get to have anymore. A new email pinged on my laptop. I didn't look, but I saw the subject line reflected in the window. Harbor View cancellation authorization needed. I picked up my phone and dialed the venue in front of them. Kylie, it's the bride. I did not authorize a cancellation. Please put a hold on all changes until you hear from me directly in writing. Of course, Kylie said. I'm so sorry about the confusion. Me too, I said, and ended the call. When I looked up, Claire's mouth was a hard line. James looked 20% smaller. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, I said, echoing the hallway, to get anything that's yours out of this apartment. After that, the locks change. Claire opened her mouth. I lifted a hand. 5 minutes. Be grateful I'm not counting. They moved. Keys, a jacket, the backpack that had held the tablet. Claire paused by the framed Saveth date on the console, the one shed lettered. She touched the glass like it might sigh an answer. The door, she turned. You'll be alone. It'll be clean, I said. They left. The click of the latch was a small sound for such a large ending. I sat. My hands finally trembled, then stilled. The stove clock turned 10:14. In the corner of my screen, another email arrived, this one from the florist confirming per your planner's note. Well, redirect all communications to Claire. I hit reply. Actually, I typed redirect to me. I sent it. Then I opened a blank document and wrote the first 3 lines of the speech I'd practice for the rest of the week. I am canceling my wedding. It's not a tragedy. It's a correction. My phone buzzed again. A number I didn't recognize. Voicemail. I pressed play. Hi, a woman said, warm and professional. This is Margot from the morning show. We saw your maid of honor's a change of plans post, and well, if you're willing to talk, would love to hear your side. I stared at the wall. Somewhere, somehow, they'd already started telling their story. Fine, I thought. Then they'll tell mine louder. I reached for the ring, held it up, and watched the light bend. Then I put it back down and picked up the phone. Hi, Margot, I said. I have receipts. I didn't sleep that night. My phone kept lighting up blocked numbers, unknown numbers, numbers I knew too well. I silenced them all. By morning, Hannah had already texted. Hannah, they posted. It's nauseating. I clicked the link. Claire's Instagram, a soft focus picture of her hand and James, both holding coffee cups. The caption read, life takes us on unexpected paths. Sometimes love is found where you least expect it. Comments were disabled. Unexpected paths. As if they'd been swept into each other's arms by a rogue wave, not months of deliberate deceit. I decided to go on the morning show. Not for revenge, at least that's what I told myself, but because silence felt too much like agreeing with their version. Margot, the producer, promised 10 minutes of live airtime and a safe space to tell your truth. When I walked onto the set the next day, the lights were warm, and the couch was softer than it looked on TV. The host leaned in and asked, Emily, you were planning your wedding when you found out your maid of honor was involved with your fiancé. What went through your mind? I took a breath, looked at the camera, and said, it wasn't just betrayal. It was theft. They didn't just take a relationship, they tried to take my story, my plans, and my right to end them on my terms. The clip went viral before I even got home. My inbox filled with messages, some from strangers, some from people I hadn't heard from in years. Most were kind, a few were less so. And then there was one from the venue. Emily, per your request, we have removed all third-party access to your account. Your deposit is intact. Let us know if you'd like to transfer your date for another event. I stared at that last line. Another event. My wedding day had been a countdown for months, and now it was a blank square. That night, I went to my parents' house. They'd been quiet through all of this, letting me come to them when I was ready. My mom hugged me at the door and said, I'm proud of you for holding the line. I told her about the viral clip, about the way it felt to speak my side, about the venue's offer. She listened, then said, you could still use the day for you. The idea sat in my mind like a warm stone. A day that had been stolen, reclaimed. 2 days later, James texted from a new number. Can we meet? Just to clear the air. I replied with a single word, no. Claire tried next. This is getting out of hand. You're making us look bad. I didn't respond. Instead, I called the venue and said yes. I want the date, but not for a wedding. On May 17th, Harborview Hall will still have flowers and music. The dress code will be bright colors. Hannah will give a toast about friendship and starting over. I'll walk into that room, not in a white gown but in something that feels like me. And the people there will be the ones who never tried to rewrite my story. I'm not naive. I know James and Claire will keep telling their version. They'll justify, revise, maybe even believe it eventually. But I don't need to fight them for the last word, because the last word will be mine in a room full of laughter, on the day they thought they'd erased me. And when the music starts, I'll dance first. May 17th arrived like any wedding day, clear skies, warm breeze, the smell of flowers in the air. Except there was no aisle, no officiant, no nervous fiancé waiting at the end. There was just me, a hall full of people who'd stay when things got ugly, and the hum of a day that finally belonged to me again. Hannah was the first to greet me at the venue doors. She wore a sunflower yellow dress and a grin that said, "You did it." Behind her, the Harborview staff had outdone themselves, strings of fairy lights over the tables, bouquets in every shade but white, a small stage set for the band. I thought about James and Claire, whether they even remembered what day it was, whether they were scrolling through their feeds, seeing tagged photos of me smiling under the lights. I didn't wish them happiness, but I didn't wish them misery either. I just didn't wish them anything. They were background noise now. Halfway through the night, Hannah tapped her glass for attention. "I'd like to make a toast," she said, "to Emily for proving that when someone tries to write you out of your own story, you can pick up the pen and make something better." The applause was warm, real. I felt it settle into me like sunlight. Later, when the crowd thinned, I stepped outside to the balcony. The harbor stretched dark and calm beneath the moonlight. I remembered standing here months ago with James during our venue tour, his arm around me, both of us imagining this night as something else entirely. And then I remembered opening the door to see him and Claire in my apartment, the way the world had tilted, and how certain it'd been that it would never feel steady again. But it did. Different, yes, rearranged, rebuilt, but steady. Hannah joined me on the balcony, holding to champagne flutes. "For you," she said, handing one over. "To what?" I asked. She smiled. "To May 17th, the day you took back." We clinked glasses. The sound was sharp and perfect. When the night ended, I didn't feel that familiar ache you get when something you've planned for months is suddenly over. I felt lighter, like the last piece of Claire and James' shadow had been swept away with the confetti. Back at my apartment, I set the empty champagne glass on the counter next to the ring James had once given me. I decided not to sell it yet, not because I wanted to keep it, but because I wanted it to remind me I can survive the kind of loss that feels like it should end you. Some stories end with revenge. Mine didn't. It ended with music and flowers and people who had never needed an invitation to stand by me. And the next morning, when I woke to sunlight spilling across my bed, I realized I'd stopped thinking of May 17th as my wedding day. It was just my day, and that was more than enough.